Hi, I'm Raven, and this is in collaboration with the Equality Justice Alliance, and we are doing a series on mental health. So, mental health usually has a very negative connotation in every country, in every context. So, we're trying to get around the stigma and discrimination associated with mental health and promote mental health and wellness throughout Barbados and the Eastern Caribbean. So, what mental health really is
A state of well-being in which every individual realizes his or her own potential, can cope with the normal stress of life, can also work productively and fruitfully, and is able to make a contribution to her or his own community and self.
so that pretty much is a very basic, general, overall view of what mental health is. The more technical description of mental health is a level of psychological well-being and or absence of mental illness. It is a state of someone who is functioning at a satisfactory level of emotional and behavioral adjustment from the perspective of positive psychology. And later on in these episodes, we're going to be talking with a mental health expert, and they will give their synopsis on what positive psychology is more in depth. Mental health may also include a person's ability to enjoy life and create a balance between activities and efforts to achieve psychological resilience. According to the World Health Organization, mental health includes subjective well being, perceived self efficacy, autonomy, competence, intergenerational dependence, and self actualization of one's intellectual, emotional, and other things, which create cultural differences, subjective assessments, and competing on professional levels, giving theories of how it affects one's personal mental health or how one defines their mental health. So that was more technical definition of what mental health is. As it regards to the Barbadian or Bajan context, when Bajans usually hear mental health, it doesn't have the most uplifting, or it doesn't have the most nice response when it comes to mental health in the Bajan context. So the stigma associated with mental health is a very negative connotation usually, and people say things like you're mad, you're crazy, you're a Looney Tune, you have a couple screws missing, and the persons are not taking their medications as they should, or this person's not on their meds. Some persons say that this person on drugs, this person on dope or cocaine or whatever other drug which causes some sort of I guess lack of mental rationale.
Yeah, like I think the most people would say is like, oh, well, mad people should be on Black Rock.
Right, so Black Rock is the location for the psychiatric hospital.
Actually. So whenever you hear like a Bajan saying about Black Rock, mostly your brain should be able to go, okay, it means psychiatric.
So this is the psychiatric hospital. This is the outside view, and usually some of the patients are seen walking around the grounds. Some of them come up to the gates, but under varying circumstances, some of them are usually left there with no family to come and visit. There's also a children's section, which is this building over here. And then there are different stages, like the quarterway house right there, the orange, which is for persons recovering who have been released and are continuing with their recovery. Yeah, and the psychiatric hospital does not have the best reputation for giving competent mental health care.
Yeah.
And later on we will talk about that
as well.
Yes. Also, the lack of knowledge leads to more stigma and discrimination as it relates to persons who are affected by mental illness. It is a well-known fact that the anecdotal beliefs further perpetuate stigma and discrimination that causes persons to not actively or adequately seek mental health treatment for their mental illnesses, or even admit that they're experiencing problems as it regards to their mental health. Sometimes this is so bad that persons wouldn't even admit that they're experiencing mental health illnesses to then further go seek the services to get the help that they really need. Most persons are ashamed because they exhibit some traces of mental health illnesses, and sometimes it's misdiagnosed, and oftentimes diagnoses are given by persons who aren't trained psychologists or psychiatrists or anybody in the mental health fields.
True. Also, it is very much to note that what most of the things that we're going to discuss do come onto a spectrum. So you may have maybe a slight relation to what we're going to talk about. Some people might have a stronger one, but again, it all is in the spectrum.
Everything is a spectrum. So we're going to be talking about mental disorders, and these are some of the more well-known ones, or ones that are mainly spoken about. So for instance, psychotic disorders. Psychotic disorders involve distorted awareness and thinking. Two of the most common symptoms of psychotic disorders are hallucinations, which is the experience of images or sounds that are not real, such as hearing voices, and delusions, where you see something and it's a fixed belief that the person that's experiencing mental illness hones in on, but it's really not true, despite evidence to give the contrary. Another well-known example of a psychotic disorder is schizophrenia. Schizophrenia is a long-term mental disorder involving the breakdown in relation between thought, emotion, and involving behavioral traits, leading to the faulty perception and inappropriate actions and feelings. Withdrawal from reality and personal relationships. So usually people have that mixed up with bipolar disorder, and again, we'll leave a description below with the rest of the mental health disorders.
If you would like to do your own research and such.
So we'll leave links and stuff in the description on the rest of the mental health disorders, but people usually mix up schizophrenia and bipolar disorder.
So next would be anxiety disorders. So these are usually containing with people with, respond with certain objects or situations with fear or dread, as well as with physical signs of anxiety or panic, such as rapid heartbeats and sweating. Anxiety or disorder is diagnosed if the person's response is not appropriate for the situation, if the person cannot control the response, or if the anxiety interferes with normal functioning. Anxiety disorder includes generalized anxiety disorder, panic disorders, social anxiety disorders, and specific phobias.
Another one is OCD, which people again talk about a lot, is obsessive compulsive disorder. People with OCD are plagued with constant thoughts and fears that cause them to perform certain rituals or routines repeatedly or non-stop. The disturbing thoughts are called obsession, and the rituals are called compulsions. An example is a person who has an unreasonable fear of germs who constantly washes their hands. So every time they touch a doorknob, every time they come into physical contact with anything, they usually try to cleanse or sanitize the area excessively.
Great. So then it would be one more known ones, I would guess you would say, when it comes to mood disorders. So these disorders, also called affective disorders, involve persistent feelings of sadness or periods of experiences of feeling overly happy, or fluctuations from extreme happiness to extreme sadness. Most common mood disorders are depression, bipolar disorder, and one that's kind of unfamiliar to me, but hopefully you would do your own research as well.
Psychothematic
there you go.
disorder.
Still not good with pronunciation of that. But into fantasy and delusion, and a sense of mental fragmentation.
So the last one we're going to talk about today is impulse control and addiction disorders. People with impulse control disorders are unable to resist the urges or impulses to perform acts that could be harmful to themselves or others. Some of these acts are things like pyromania, people who like to start fires. Those persons may just take a flame or lighter and just look at it And that may be on the more milder side, and then it goes more extreme where they burn everything in sight.
Just to see the beauty of a flame.
Right. Another one is kleptomania, which is stealing. So people always have this, I guess, TV or film has perpetuated this negative stigma about kleptomania. And they have it portrayed as anything shiny, somebody sees something shiny, they must have it.
Yeah, like,
and it's not
trope. There's one trope actually that people do like to do in films where, well, mostly in cartoon films, I would say, like, what's the most famous bird that would do it? Like a crow? Yeah.
Yeah, they like to take up
anything that's
shiny and silver, but it's pretty much anything that they see. Some persons may have extreme kleptomania where they take up your bag and they will make it seem like it's theirs. So that's another one. And compulsive gambling is also another extreme example of control disorders. Another one is alcohol and drugs. And these are common objectives to addiction. Often people with these disorders become so involved with the objects of their addiction that they begin to ignore responsibilities and relationships. So usually people that gamble and drink alcohol, either separately or together, will lose reality of what they need to do, the things that they have as their main priorities. Some persons gamble themselves into debt or gamble away the things that are their personal possessions. So these things are some of the more well-known types of mental disorders, and we will definitely have more coming in this series. Thanks for tuning in, and we hope to see you on the next episode where we talk about the other things associated with mental health.